I'm sorry.
I do.
Okay.
Go ahead. I don't know if how much more I'm going to have to say about it. So
I'm excited to partner with a world-class organization like Skydance Sports to further my creative ambitions through storytelling, Allen said. Utilizing my platform to do good and be good is very important to me, and Skydance is an excellent partner who can help me achieve this goal through the creation of compelling content that aims to inspire.
Do good, be good. There it is.
There you go.
Part of the brand. Well, good for Josh Allen. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog here, 803-0550. That's not talking about the Sabres right there. That was not talking about the Sabres.
That was 25 minutes of not talking about the Sabres.
We will do more of that.
I was yelling about Big Dom for a little while.
Big Dom. Maybe I'll go get an autograph personalized to you.
That would be really nice.
Will he have the longest line at this show?
If you can get that and then I can get it tattooed on my bicep, that would be awesome.
No promises. Sabres and Sharks, pregame at 6 here on WGR.
We know you can't hear every moment of Sabres.
Very busy day today in the NFL. We'll start with the Bills. Quarterback Josh Allen is signing a multi-year deal with Skydance Sports Inc., an entertainment production studio. And Peyton Manning and LeBron James also had similar ventures in their careers. But to the business side of things in the league, the new league year is starting next Wednesday. And with that, a number of teams are setting the table. Philadelphia will start there, giving running back Saquon Barkley a 2-year, $41.2 million extension. He is now the highest paid running back in NFL history, the first running back to surpass $20 million per year. And this deal also includes $36 million guaranteed. The Cowboys, they have signed defensive tackle Osa Odigizua to a 4-year, $80 million deal. 58 of that is guaranteed. And they also are clearing up some cap space. They've restructured wide receiver CeeDee Lamb's deal. That creates $20 million for them. And then the franchise tag deadline has passed. Just 2 teams have used the tag, the Bengals with wide receiver T. Higgins and the Chiefs with guard Trey Smith. And that, of course, does mean the Vikings did not do so with quarterback Sam Darnold. He is expected now to be a free agent come Monday when the legal tampering period begins. It is Bills night at the arena. The Sabres are taking on the San Jose Sharks. Puck drop at 7. Pregame getting underway at 6. Sabres are looking to avoid dropping a 4th straight game. And then in college hoops, UB Men hosting Miami of Ohio at 7. It is going to be the final home game for the year for the men. That game will be over on our sister station, the Bet 1520. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Headlines. Paddock Chevrolet celebrating 90 years of business. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
Is help paving the way for other running backs in the future, creating a new benchmark by which they will try to achieve in the future. With the cap going up, it makes it easier to do. And now we're starting to see very gradually running backs achieve some of the value in their contracts, but you're also starting to see it in the draft, which later on will equate to deals in free agency.
Somebody write that out for me. Barkley gets paid. Talking about James Cook, Josh Allen, that news just for the last few minutes. Oh, watch out.
The Josh Allen news isn't a new contract, by the way. It's a marketing arrangement.
It is a new contract, but it is not a new Bills contract.
Right.
Watch out. You better not slip. Guys, you're afraid to say it. Too much focus not on football. If. Not when, if.
Mm-hmm. I see.
That's just going to be sitting there.
Yeah.
Right on a tee.
Yeah.
If he
wasn't there already with the Hollywood
he didn't slip.
Yeah, right.
You have to slip first.
I see.
Or even you could predict it. I wouldn't want to do that.
Yeah.
A slip.
I think he's impervious to the slip.
Really?
Slip proof.
So it's gone now. So this cannot be put to the test. But today was another day where there was food all over the kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
Donuts, and yesterday there was a king cake with the little baby in it. You ever have that?
That box scared me. I didn't look very closely at that box. I'd never seen anything quite like it. I peered. It had one of those clear cellophane tops on it, and no.
Not here for the king cake.
I'm out. I don't know what that is. I'm not looking any closer.
One of our coworkers yesterday was eating some of it, and I said, "Did you find the baby?" And he's like, "What are you talking about?" And somebody driving, at least one person right now listening, is like, "What is he? What do you mean? There's a baby in a cake?"
I don't know what the hell's
But
going
there's
on
a little in a king cake, like Mardi Gras. There's a little plastic baby toy that somebody will find. Don't eat it. It's hard plastic. You're not supposed to eat the baby.
It'd be like eating a Lego. Yeah, don't do that.
Right. It'd be very much, very similar, I imagine. Yeah. Anyway, today, donuts, and there had been other food there.
There was breakfast stuff. I saw an email this morning.
Okay.
About breakfast stuff and donuts.
There was a wrap that was open on the wrapper.
I saw that.
Half a wrap.
Yeah.
That had been there probably for hours. Mm-hmm. I didn't get too close, but I did write down what would it take for you to eat that. But it's gone. Probably thrown out. It looks like it's been cleaned up out there.
Yeah. Yeah,
Not cleaned up.
There were a half a dozen boxes of donuts when we got here. Now, when I last went out there, they were all arranged neatly on a big platter,
Yes.
which I thought was that's nice. It looks nice.
Sounds like somebody touched all the donuts.
That definitely had to happen. Although you could have used the little paper thingies, maybe.
Do you think someone did that?
No, but you could have.
However, somebody, my guess would be Samantha, somebody so minded to neaten the area maybe would be a person who would
not
touch them with their own hands.
soil all the donuts.
Right.
Soil's a little strong.
So it would have taken me a lot to eat the wrap.
I would have to have been snowed in here, working through the night, and then walked out there and seen that. All right, it looks like somebody cut that in half. Like, it didn't look like it had a bite taken out. It looked like it was severed.
At least there's that.
With a utensil of some kind. So, okay. But, yeah, I'd have to be working on, like, 8 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours, no food. Like, oh, look at that. There's some bacon in there. All right.
I got to eat something.
I mean, bacon's fine.
Bacon is fine. Yes. It's probably not going to kill me.
No.
But, again, unless you
Yeah.
go digging through the garbage.
Yeah, I think I'm glad that we, didn't get to make that decision.
Did you happen to read Matthew Berry's piece about the Combine?
I did.
All right.
I retweeted it.
You did?
Yeah. No comment, just retweeted. I didn't oh, this is interesting. Whatever. I retweeted it.
One Bills paragraph. Mm-hmm. His Bills source. I feel like that's going to be somebody pretty high up. How many people would Matthew Berry cite as a Bills source? I doubt it would be an assistant coach, unless it's maybe a coordinator, but probably not below the level of assistant coach. Head coach could be. I don't know if he'd be acquainted with McDermott.
Could be Bean.
Bean would be my guess.
Yeah.
But I don't know. How many other people in the organization would qualify, like somebody that you, the kind of relatively big name reporter, like he's not Schefter, he's more in the fantasy space, but still, would be somebody that would matter enough to you to know.
I love thinking about stuff like this. I don't know how interesting it is to our audience, but I think someone, I'm not super familiar. You've probably read Matthew Berry's writing for years because of his fantasy prominence.
Not really.
I've not read a lot of his writing, but I feel like anybody reporting, like, this is, he's like saying this isn't like, what's the disclaimer on the piece? It's all just scuttlebutt. It's rumors I heard while in Indianapolis. This isn't reporting. This is gonna anyway.
Man, he said that like 5 times too.
So, but with that,
got it
right. With that said, I think if it's anyone below the level you're talking about, like below coordinator, prominent assistant coach, it's just a source. I think Bill's source means it's. But my immediate thought when I saw Bill's source was that's Bean.
Yeah, I mean, it could be.
I don't have to be right about that, but that's just how I would do it.
It could be what you said, or it could be just like, again, like gossip around the Bills. You don't even have to. You don't need a source if you're writing like that.
Right.
So you would not even be that specific. Another reason I think to think the same way you do, which is maybe the GM is telling him this. I guess we could find out if Cooper. The prediction was Matthew Berry through a Bill source. Kincaid bounces back, and Cooper just bounces.
Right.
Kincaid bounces back. He was more hurt than you know, and they think that this Bill source supposedly gave Berry the impression that maybe Cooper is washed.
Yeah, it might be done, I think is the phrasing used in the piece. And Kincaid is like a, you can probably get him as a bargain in fantasy drafts. You should consider it because he'll be back, is the way I took what he was writing there.
I'm not sure I'm going to want to buy that. Mm-hmm. I can believe that he was hurt. We even saw it. Mm-hmm. He missed time. Like that was not really a secret. With Davis, it was more of a secret. Not. I don't mean that like in a certain way, but he was hurt early in the season. He played the rest of the year, and we didn't spend a lot of time talking about whether he was kind of disabled on the field, Davis.
Right. Kincaid, you could see Kincaid had a huge brace on. I don't remember Davis having any accessories whatsoever. Different injury. I think Davis was a foot or an ankle, and Kincaid was a knee. So he had the bulky brace for a little while. Like you could see evidence of it more readily than I think you could see it with Davis.
Speaking of evidence, we just don't have much evidence that Kincaid is the player they said he would be. They haven't used him when it started anyway. They weren't using him as such. And then the second year, there just were very few big plays. The idea was, or else it's not a first-round pick. The idea was that he would be a difference maker in their offense, and really he hasn't been. He hasn't been terrible, but for me, he hasn't been that. And so that's kind of where I land when it comes to him right now, is I don't know if their scheme is – they've got a tight end already. Shakir is locked up for a big contract extension. He's their number one receiver. Where is Kincaid? I sort of have the same doubts as a year ago. Last year, I talked myself more into him because, young tight end, and there was really no one else that I wanted to bet on.
And he caught 73 passes as a rookie, which is a really good – I mean, it's not Sam Laporta or the guy from this year whose name has escaped me for some reason, Bowers, but still, it was really good.
It was fine. It wasn't special. Agree?
By the standard in the league now, no, it wasn't.
It wasn't special. So there might be a PR campaign, coming our way that Kincaid really just was not physically there.
You're going to want one or the other. Well, I should say what the two things are, right? Big plays. Yeah, great. Stretching the seam. He's an athlete. He knows how to work coverages and find the soft spot, and that'll work. And it's weird that Allen missed him so much. The miss percentage was egregiously high on him, way more so than any other guy on the team. So that was weird. So, okay, if I don't get the big plays, because touchdowns are big plays too, even if they're from 3 yards away or 10 yards away, like red zone, think about, I know, the gold standard, Kelsey, right? You're third and goal at the 8. Kelsey all day long. That's it. And that's not happening either. So something's going to have to get going there. Ideally both. It'd be great if he made big plays and had the odd 30 or 40-yard play mixed in to the I don't need one every week or anything. That'd be insane. But just a few would be great. And then I don't know, a half a dozen touchdowns, 8 touchdowns. Come on,
34 games, 5 touchdowns in 2 years. But yes, by saying all this, I don't either think that, in reaction to the fans, or I guess us and the media, that there's going to be that much criticism of him. I don't think it's going to be something that needs a reaction to. It's 2 years. They've won a lot.
The injury is extremely believable. It sounds like an excuse. This really what it is this year he's got to break through. Then, to me, I'm not overly worried about him. I would have liked more, either year. Everything I just said. If I don't get, something close to his rookie production with some more touchdowns this year, then you made a bad pick. This year is going to really matter. It's year 3, and guess what? Year 3 afterwards is when you can start talking about these contracts, even with first-round picks or the 5th-year option, and I don't know. He's going to have to do something this year to make me want to even talk about that.
That'd be good. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog here at 803-0550. Sabres and Sharks, pregame at 6. This is WGR.
More of
Game at 6. Sharks reporter Sheng Peng tweets that Vitek Vanacek, goalie, will not play tonight because of, quote, trade purposes. Georgiev starts.
Okay.
I didn't know he was on San Jose.
I didn't either. I looked earlier because I was curious about this. But yeah, I just, you know what happened to me? I saw Blackwood first. He's gone. He's in Colorado now. Vanacek, and then I skipped right down to the bottom. In the order they're listed on the ESPN.com stats page is Askarov, the guy they acquired from Nashville, who should be their number one next year, I think. I don't know. He's only played 13 games there. So I kind of skipped over Georgiev. But, yeah, they might have got him in the trade for Blackwood. I think they sent Blackwood to Colorado. That's where he is now, and they got Georgiev back.
The Sharks are in last in the West, in the league, right?
Yeah,
so
they're pretty bad.
The Sabres are not going to be inclined to sit guys for trade purposes because they're.
I don't know that Yoki Haru wasn't that already the last 2 games.
Yep.
You know, he's been scratched a lot anyways, so it doesn't have to be a smoking gun there. They haven't been really around to be talked to much. But I wouldn't be surprised. Samuelson was scratched too. I hope that was for trade purposes.
That'd be something.
That would be something.
That.
Yeah, that would be kind of incredible, I would say. But I don't know if he's nursing something or what. But
I am bracing for the result to be the most disappointing.
The trade deadline? Yeah.
Raise your hand if you are also
Yeah.
kind of expecting the result to be the most disappointing, whatever it is. We don't all agree necessarily on what we want to happen or not happen. But if they could get out Samuelson, even Cousins, and also trade Zucker, even Greenway, Yoki Haru, like to me, that's a good day. I'm still at the bottom.
Yeah.
Like I know it's 14 years. I'm still at the bottom. That's what you do when you're at the bottom. If Cousins is maybe more of a discussion because, you know, it's gone downhill pretty hard. But that's a guy that if somebody wants to trade for him, that's because they want to make him a core piece at his price. Mm-hmm. That wouldn't just be like to be better this year. I mean, that's you're making a choice on a core player. It's not even Middlestat, who didn't have a contract for long. You know, like this has already been written.
Right.
So if that's out there, I think I would do well, or could do well in that trade because it's just gotten. The Sabres just have a special way, don't they? Mm-hmm. Cousins, just guys through the years where you have, it seems right to get really excited, and then it just flops.
It's so... He is the biggest mystery on the entire team to me. I think he really is. Because... I believe he cares and wants to do well. Like his reputation showing up here, I thought he was exactly what they needed. And he has that 60-point year with 30 goals. Like, okay, he's he's not an enforcer, but he's tough enough. Like he's a guy that can, hang in there. And I mean, he got his career's not been the same since he got pummeled by Hathaway at the beginning of the season before last, and now he can't even do that right. Like he just gets his ass kicked. Last night, the shorthanded goal.
Yeah.
I mean, he got put in a tough spot there, but physically, he got manhandled off the puck.
Marty, I thought, had that right, which is you need to play a more defensive, sort of make a different choice with the puck on that play rather than just sort of freeze and
But he just
buried.
got eliminated so easily there. I just... Even if the scoring dropped off and he went from 60 points to 50 and 30 goals to 20, if he was rugged and could defend himself and teammates when it's called for and not get pushed off the puck like that, I'd be like, all right, look, $7 million, the cap's going up. He put an A on him. He's gritty. Like I'd
want a guy like
I'd
that.
be okay. I'd be arguing against people who might be mad at him because he doesn't score 30 anymore and never became 40 goal scorer guy. But the physical parts of his game have completely fallen apart. I don't know. I cannot understand what happened to him. I just do not get it at all.
I wish I knew, but one reasonable theory, it's just not a team that inspires. And that's not an excuse for a guy, but they have been losing for so long. It takes a special kind of motivation from within to put that out of your mind. And a part of me wouldn't blame any of them.
I wonder how much grief he got inside for calling them soft when he called them soft. I don't know. Was that halfway through? Whatever. It was somewhere within the last couple of years. I know it wasn't this year. It was sometime last year. He used that phrasing, and it's been kind of widely circulated that Adams pushed back on that pretty hard. I wonder if privately Cousins got dressed down for that, and that's a moment, like, for me, if I work there, right, and you want my best, you want me to bleed for you, and you're going to tell me not to call it like I see it when my team is melting like ice cream in the sun on a regular basis, yeah, that might take something out of me.
Mike Schopp and the Bulldog at 803-0550. This is WGR.
Sabres game night tonight as they will host the San Jose Sharks. It is Bills night in the arena. Puck drop at 7. Pre-game getting underway in just about an hour at 6. Some news for the Sharks. Vitek Vanacek not going to start tonight in net. He's being held out for what is reportedly trade purposes. In his stead will be Alexander Georgiev, who will get the start in net. Around the NFL, it's been a very busy day. Philadelphia seems to have rewritten the running back market as Saquon Barkley gets a 2-year, $41.2 million extension that makes him the highest paid running back in NFL history. The deal also includes $36 million guaranteed. That was not the only move the Eagles made today. They continue their roster cuts to the secondary. Today it was cornerback James Bradbury. Yesterday, Darius Slay. To the Cowboys, they have signed defensive tackle Osa Odigizua to a 4-year, $80 million deal. $58 million of that is guaranteed. And they also cleared some cap space with a restructured contract for CeeDee Lamb. It helps create $20 million. And the Jets, they have officially released wide receiver Devontae Adams. That saves them $29.9 million in cap and have given fellow wide receiver Allen Lazard permission to seek a trade. And of course, the NFL franchise tag window has passed. Just 2 players were given the tag this year: Bengals wide receiver T. Higgins and Chiefs guard Trey Smith. This is the lowest amount since 1994. And then in college hoops, UB men will host Miami of Ohio at 7. It's going to be the final home game of the year for the men. That game will be on our sister station, The Bet 1520. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet celebrating 90 years of business. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
Schopp and the Bulldog.
Here's what's going to happen. I am going to have to fix you, manage you to on a more personal scale, a more micro form of management. What is that called?
Microagement.
Boom. Yes.
It's Mike Schopp
What is your name, sir? I am Bill Buttlicker.
and the Bulldog.
Really, that's your real name? How dare you? My family built this country, by the way.
It's Mike Schopp
The 3 words I would describe you as is aggressive, hostile, and definitely difficult.
and the Bulldog
Well, I like the sound of your voice.
on WGR Sports Radio 550.
Okay, Sabres and Sharks in an hour. It wasn't intentional.
Pre-game
in an hour.
Sabres and Sharks.
It wasn't intentional. I didn't mean to exactly figure out a way to feel better about the Sabres by looking up just random things about them over the years, but I do kind of feel better just seeing the name Dominic Cahoon.
I understand how that could happen.
Dominic Cahoon. How about it for Anders Bjork, by the way? Rank these 3 players in Sabres history: Dominic Cahoon, Anders Bjork, Arttu Ruotsalainen.
Oh my gosh. I got excited about Ruotsalainen.
Sure.
I had a minute with him. The other 2 dudes barely. Half a minute with either guy, maybe. But Ruotsalainen, I remember thinking oh, this guy, this is a guy. I think this guy can play. And it didn't happen. Yeah. So I got sucked in on him a little bit. I think the other 2 not as much.
No.
So for me, I don't know. To me, they're all nothing burgers. But at least Ruotsalainen, I had a moment where I thought he could be on my team. I think he could. The other 2 were on the team more substantively than he ever was, which says a lot about my judgment, I guess.
I was asking myself earlier, thinking about today, and last night, if I've tried too hard to buy into them, to buy into some of their guys. I mean, some of these, if you will, fringe players. Cahoon, thinking of Pilot. Guys that it seemed right they seemed to make sense. The charts like them, and I'm not going to have a whole team of superstars. I don't want that. It's not possible. But I've got to have role players, and I think I'm getting my superstars right. Generally, this goes back a decade now, but still, I've got high end. I just need to not get buried when my best players are on the bench. And so some of these players have looked reasonable toward that, but I still got nowhere. And we're talking about Cousins before, and like what happened to Dylan Cousins? What is it about the Sabres that seems to bring about just like this, I don't want to say apathy from within the team. I wouldn't want to say that, but almost like everybody's always miserable. Going back to O'Reilly, we talked about him today, because with the Sabres, you can never escape your past. It's just like Drury Briere, Pekka and Ashik. Like you can never escape the past, which is, marked by this drama so often, of course, with Eichel too, where is the player unhappy and why and what is going on behind the scenes, like pre-Pagula with the Sabres, that makes you wonder. Cousins is different, I guess, but who knows what he thinks in private or what he says about where he's at in his career or just what. You got a guy at Berglund who just quit hockey instead of playing for the Sabres. Remember that one from the Blues?
Yes, that was part of the O'Reilly trade. Yeah.
I don't know. I'm sure teams have their own examples of this. But again, part of what is so maddening about the Sabres' absolute inability to get out of the bottom is that it's confusing in a way. You get Luukkonen on a great year, and that makes sense. So I'm good there, but I'm not maybe that good there. I thought I was. There's a lot of I thought I was. I thought I was okay. I won the lottery a few times, if you will. Second, including second, because of the guys they got in those 2 years. Like, what have I gotten wrong? Like, what is it about this whole thing that just has buried them? And it's, as you know, most of these years haven't even been that interesting. Like, they're not close. If I had 10 more points, I'd be fired up for tonight.
Yeah.
More than fans of these teams like Boston and the Rangers, who are in the playoffs all the time, but this year are down. Like, this is new for me.
Right. If the Sabres were in the spot either one of those two teams were in, those teams are talking about selling guys. At least the Bruins are, and they did so today already. A minor trade, but a tough guy that can play kind of anywhere in your lineup. Frederick, that's what he is. So that they're dumping at least that. That's not a top line guy or anything, but still, we would not be if the Sabres were 4 points out of a playoff spot or 2 or 3, like some of those teams are that we're talking about. We would not be talking about trading Zucker or Greenway. We'd be talking about finding another center or something, or a defenseman or whatever. Like it would be so new to have we got a race. We really have a race. They're in a race, not like we were talking ourselves into last week, but like actually a race. And yeah, we're so far gone that would be exciting and new.
It would be new
for a change, especially on a. I don't want to make I feel like every year at some point I give the speech about it's getting nice out and it's lighter out longer, and like hockey, you start to feel it, man. It's coming. Here come the playoffs, and like, who am I going to be playing? Do I want to be the 2 or the 1? The 5 or the 4 or what? Like, oh my gosh, you just it's an empty set for us. Bums me out every year when I think of that. So I didn't even want to say it myself. I didn't want to think it, but I did. It's been just so long since we've had that percolating, that vibe around town.
What I never want to do is completely give up. I know it's going to sound like that sometimes when, like most fans, I suppose, it feels pretty lonely. But I never want to entirely give up. And no matter how many bad decisions your team has made for years and years, they start over every year, right? Like you don't start from behind in the race. You start from even. And you get the vibes going. Other things click, line mates click, hope returns, and you're somewhere.
You're free. You're free of this. You definitely leave this. You reserve the right to revisit it, right? This feeling that we all have right now. But yeah, when they get good, it's like you don't like worry about what happened 3 years ago. And he was like, "This is good. They're good now."
It might be harder to trust it, but you have it. And if you're committing to not giving up like entirely, that leaves there being some juice in there that when last night happens or the last 3 games happen, you get upset because you did care. You cared enough to have that bother you. You didn't give up all the way. There's a part of me, and sometimes I probably say this kind of thing, but like you referenced a caller maybe talking this way from the past. Just tell me when they're good, right? Like there's a part of me that kind of wants to do that, but I really don't fully want to do that because, again, it's just incredible the Sabres for so long not having a year where those things happened once. It's more amazing than anything else, this drought, because they don't spend to the cap, but they do spend a lot. And they have talent. And they've had, some credible coaches. Like there's enough where you'd think one of these times it's gonna land right. And then here we go again when we get to like the beginning of March, and I guess these maybe aren't not meaningful games. And it's amazing. It's almost worse than just being 14 years without, because for so many of those years they've been rock bottom, last, not just out, but last, with super talent in some cases. Like kind of on every one of these teams, there's been a player or two that anybody would love to have, and it still happens. It's just confounding. So it's been said many times, what do you do now? I mean, I don't mean the trade deadline, but the Sabres, I think, like I know a lot of people agree, so badly need new people that can give the impression that this is a serious organization. I mean, due respect to Adams, I always like talking to him. 5 years as a GM without a playoff appearance, time's up. I mean, I think it should be 3. 5 years without playoffs in hockey, that's the bare minimum. Just making it, you don't make it every year, but you know what I'm saying? Find your way somehow, this owner, to somebody that the Greg Wyshynskis of the world will say, okay, this is somebody who's actually been a GM before. This is somebody who's getting this job makes sense. And then a coach with, because the GM is there. And this is now, not a guy who coached soccer or a guy who coached juniors, right? Like this is sort of a real, due respect again to Lindy, who is this, career-wise, is this, but he worried me early this year, just like, I wasn't sure I wanted to do it. That is waiting for the Sabres, and maybe they'll never do it. They didn't do it other times when it might have been pretty logical and seemed maybe obvious that they should.
Yeah, I would love to know, really, like in private, what the owner really feels about the whole thing. Like, does he just feel hopeless? No matter what I do, it's not going to work, because he has not tried everything. He's tried a lot of different people, but he's never. It should be should be repeated maybe more often than it is. What you said earlier. Every you say it. Every GM that they've hired hadn't had the job prior and hasn't had one since.
I mean, you have to go back to like the 90s or the 80s, but right. Like hiring Adams was what?
Convenient is what it was. It was convenient
and not expensive.
And I think it was temperamental, because it was in June. The season hadn't just. They had given Bottrell. Remember, we know things that you don't know.
Oh yeah,
that was from ownership. We know things you don't know. We're going to keep Jason Bottrell. And then it's the pandemic, and then it's June, and he's fired. And here comes Kevin Adams. And then a whole bunch of other people got fired. So, I mean, it's all kind of circumstantial, but, like, you can Well, you can do the math, and it's not very complimentary what the computer would spit out there. I don't have a smoking gun on all that, but holy cow, the optics are pretty curious at best. And so that's your organization. That's your reputation. And then you're going to stand up and tell us all how nobody wants to come here because of palm trees and taxes? Like, dudes, you have dug half of your own grave before you walked through the door. With the circumstances, you got the job in, perhaps. Just not a good spot to be.
George is next. Hi, George.
Hi, guys. My take is that I think that they were paid too early in their careers, most of them. And I don't have a big history in my head about how guys came up from the minors. But I don't remember half of these guys playing in Rochester that seemed like they got drafted and all of a sudden they were on the roster. That's really all I have to say. I think they have some kind of entitlement feelings. And maybe they need to check, the team needs to check some of their social gatherings and stuff. Half the time these guys come out on a night like they had a little while ago that they were all out partying the night before. That's all I got. Thanks for hearing me.
They did pay a lot of guys very early. And there were, that has become a trend in the league, though. And I have, with a clear conscience, I could not sit here and rip them for it because they do have the reputation they have. So you get Dylan Cousins at the age he was, 30 goals, 60 points, beating up some dude on the New York Rangers, like, oh, man, this guy's captain material. Okay. And you want to tell me you're signing him, locking him up because you don't want to lose him? Because, you're before your reputation gets in the way, before he gets sour on you, you're going to lock him up. That's not a healthy way to do business, but I understand it. You're dealing from the deck you're working with. And so you do it and you hope. And they've gotten burned. I mean, Samuelson, Cousins, for sure. I am not at all sour on Power. He's far from a perfect player to me, but I'm still at his age and his size and his ability. There's a shift last night in that game that did it not lead to the tying goal? He was just incredible in the Montreal zone with the puck. Power. There's a lot there.
The charts love him.
And I'm not like, look, I also see the shortcomings, losing guys in front of the net and all of it. Okay. But I don't include him in that. Really, to me, it's Cousins and Samuelson are the two that are looking like because Thompson produces. He's had injury problems. You can never guarantee against that. To me, he's making $7 million, and he's still a bargain at this point.
Darlene counts, too.
Darlene is excellent. So they haven't missed on them all, but Cousins is a big miss because that was a guy you were, I think, expecting to be sort of the heartbeat and pulse of your team was why you paid him. And he just... You want to set a tone for a tough road game? Try not getting pummeled by a guy that I can't shake the image of looking like he was 12 years old when he showed up in the league.
Hartford.
Just what are we doing?
This is the Hartford game?
So, yes. So, if you want to be harsh about it and less fair than I'm trying to be now, you could accuse Adams of taking a victory lap too early. Because the contract, it is status for the player, and it's arrival for the player. Look, Mom, look, Dad, we did it. $50 million, we're all set. Thanks for driving me around the Yukon when I was 12. And I don't say that lightly. That means a lot. But for the team, for the GM and the organization, it's also a victory lap. We look at what we did. We did a thing. We got this guy, and we're locking him up, and yay for us. And you can be in too much of a hurry to do that. But again, the place that they were, I understand how that mistake could get made on guys. because
Me too.
They don't feel like they can run the risk of guys getting to the market ever. That's why the whole thing about we want guys who want to be here, I said it the day Adam said that. Sure, I do too. We all do. As fans, what do we hate more than anything is guys that are on our teams that seem like they don't want to be there. Right? We want you to love us too. We're going to love you. Score some goals, score some touchdowns. We're going to love you. But you got to make it work for us. This was a Diggs problem. Diggs never really wouldn't give you that. And I don't say that critically. I'm just saying that some dudes are just like that. I'm not gonna pander to you. This is who I am. I'm going to play great for you. That's it. That's the end of the transaction. Other guys will go a little more, and those guys get more embraced. But man, when it misses, it's just and the only guys that want to be here are the guys that don't have any choice. That's too harsh. I don't mean that. It's just when they're young in the NHL, they don't have any rights. You've got them. And so they're, of course, going to talk about how great it is to be here because there's no doorway out yet. But as soon as that door opens a crack, like Reinhardt, okay, I'm walking right through. Thanks for everything.
Mike Schopp and the Bulldog. You can call us at 803-0550. This is WGR.
Never miss Paddock Chevrolet Sports Headlines.
It is Bills night at the arena. The Sabres are hosting the San Jose Sharks. Puck drop at 7. Pregame getting underway in just about a half hour at 6. Some news for tonight's opponent. Vitek Vanacek not going to start tonight in net. He's being held out due to what is reportedly trade purposes. Alexander Georgiev will get the start instead. To the NFL, very, very busy day as the new league year will begin next week. Many teams are beginning to set the table for that. The Eagles seem to reset the running back market. Saquon Barkley, 2-year extension worth $41.2 million. Now the highest paid running back in NFL history. And also included in that deal is $36 million guaranteed. The Cowboys began to make some moves of their own. Defensive tackle Oso Odigizua has signed to a 4-year, $80 million deal. $58 million of that is guaranteed. The team also has restructured wide receiver CeeDee Lamb's deal to create $20 million in cap space. And then the franchise tag deadline did pass. Only 2 teams used the tag on the Bengals with wide receiver T. Higgins and the Chiefs with guard Trey Smith. That does, though, mean the Vikings did not do so on quarterback Sam Darnold. He is expected then to be a free agent come a Monday when the legal tampering period gets underway. And then in college hoops, UB men host Miami of Ohio at 7. This is going to be the final home game of the year for the men, and that game can be heard over on our sister station, The Bet 1520. It's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Headlines. Paddock Chevrolet celebrating 90 years of business. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
As a captain, you have to lead. Doesn't matter what the result was. We have to get better every day, and that's my mindset. And tough nights here and there. You just got to battle. There's no quitting ever. So yeah, you just got to grind.
Rasmus Dahlin, eventful night last night for him. The Sabres lose in overtime to Montreal. Maybe could have used a save on that one, by the way. I haven't made that point today. Not a great job there on the winner.
No, not.
Does the puck go under his pad?
I think I
didn't look like there was room between the skate and the post.
Yeah, I don't. It just is not a shot that should ever have gone in. Yeah, along the ice like that. So yeah, I think it went under him. I think
it's a stick save sometimes, even, right?
Yeah. I don't know, man. That was bad. He had a tough night. I mean, they did not give up a lot despite falling down 3-0. I think the expected goals in the game were like 6 point something to 2 point something in favor of the Sabres. So
I'm about had it with expected goals.
It was not a great night for Reimer, but still, I mean, man.
The Sabres would be waltzing to their 5th cup in a row with expected goals. I'm just venting. I counted every team's playoff games for the last 13 years. Which, by the way, everybody else is, well, not everybody else, but 16 of these teams are going up from that. The Sabres are almost definitely not from their 0. NHL playoff games the last 13 years. Went through, counted every team. And tweeted it with you like the little trophies?
I like the trophies a lot, yes.
Threw some trophies in there. And I'm just going through like Hockey Reference team by team and just going back to 2011-12, the first year of this Sabres drought. And I would click on that team's, page, right? Which it would have right near the top of the page each of their playoff series. And that's as far as I would go. But you would see head coach, like that's right up there at the top of the reference sites always is head coach and, record. And some of the names of people who have coached in the league since the Sabres last made the playoffs, like Randy Cunnyworth was the head coach of the Montreal Canadiens that season, 11-12. So pop up Canadians and then like Randy Cunnyworth. Okay, sure. Mm-hmm. And then, each year's playoff games. Ron Wilson coached the Leafs when the Sabres drought started. I wanted to get somebody like more amazing because today I went back into it and I was quickly sort of bored. But I went back and did some of this again today, not resting on the laurels of the original tweet with all the totals. And these guys are not correct. Or maybe, no, Pat Quinn The late Pat Quinn is not correct.
Right.
Hitchcock is.
Right, sure.
But I remembered today, I guess, if I ever really knew it, that Quinn and Hitchcock both finished their coaching careers, assuming Hitchcock's is done, coaching one season in Edmonton.
Boy, I don't remember Quinn in Edmonton at all.
Yep.
What, happen to know offhand what year he's there?
I don't know, 10 maybe?
Man, I don't remember him there at all. Wow, that's really something.
So just like the names, like it's almost a generation.
Right. Good Lord. Yeah, I'm over here waiting for Marcel Pronovost to show up or something. It's not been that long.
If the Sabres won the next 6 Stanley Cups, they would not pass Tampa on this list.
Even if Tampa was standing still?
Well, it's 142-0. I'm gonna sweep a couple of these series. I'm good enough to run a 6-cup dynasty, starting next year, of course. Right. I wouldn't be that greedy as to say this year. I'm not getting to the
right.
arbitrary number. I admit it's not 14 years. If it were 14 years, I'd have 7. Because 14 years, that's the last Sabres playoff series against the Flyers. That was a 7-game series with Brad Boyce scoring their still most recent playoff goal.
After being a disaster of a trade acquisition at the deadline. Not scoring at all until then. That's right? He did not score a single goal for them? In the stretch run, and then I think he scored in that game. That's how I remember Brad Boyce. But that could be...
He at least almost never scored.
Okay. That could be my... I think the following year, because he was still here. Remember, they got him and he had another year. And that would be different. But that year, I don't think he scored until that playoff game.
He did score in the regular season. 5.
That year or the following year?
No, that year.
Okay.
And his only point of the playoff series was the last goal against the Flyers.
So it's not
5-2.
So it is my bias is showing. I'm angry at them, so I want it to be that he didn't score at all after the trade leading into those playoffs. But 5 goals is pretty good on a stretch run, actually.
It is pretty good. We'll have pregame at 6. It sounds like maybe Paul will not be able to join us for the start of the pregame show, which would remove there being any chance of, for the second night in a row, playing Name That Slither.
Although I don't think they would get Slither tonight. There's probably a band.
Probably a band.
It's Bill's night, and I'm friends with the guy. There's a trio that play at the home games, like not just in a lot, like at like outside the Bills store. It's like a Bills promoted thing. They're called the Believers, and 3 of those dudes were a part of this Tom Petty thing I was involved in the last 2 weekends. And I texted the drummer, it's Bill's night. Did they book the Believers for the arena? Because they have a band in there. He didn't even know what I was talking about. So, I'm sure there will be a band. Just not them, which is too bad.
And we won't know who it is.
No, because we
won't turn the mic on.
Yeah.
Or we could.
I suppose we could, yeah.
Just talk over the music like we do when he's with us, basically. Right. We could do that.
And he's fine. He was hung up in travel delays getting back from Montreal is what's going on there. So not to worry. The last time Paul wasn't where he was supposed to be for one of these pregame shows, I was in a panic about it. I said so on the air, like, where is Paul? He's never not there. Like, oh my gosh. But he was actually stuck in traffic, which is kind of what's happening again today to him. Anyway.
Unfortunately.
Yep.
We'll take a break, come back, and get closer to pregame coverage, Sabres and Sharks, starting at 6. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog, WGR. Sabres and Sharks downtown tonight. Pregame in about 15 minutes. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog here. Thanks for listening. There was, some football news today. Was the franchise tag deadline, and the speculation had grown to have you think Sam Darnold would not be tagged by the Vikings, and he wasn't. So what that means is if they want, they can try to sign him by Monday, but after that, if he's not under contract, he becomes a free agent and can sign wherever. The Vikings, if that happens and he signs a pretty good deal, starting quarterback for the Raiders or something, the Vikings will get a comp pick for losing him in free agency, which I guess might have been better, as they're sort of guessing at this, than the tag and a trade. Like, is somebody trading them something less than that price, whatever that is? Like, you wouldn't know exactly. End of the third round, maybe. So I wonder if it's really much of a window into what the league sees as his value. And he could also stay with Minnesota. I know Adam Schefter today was saying he thinks that's the most likely scenario.
And that still blows my mind. I've just even when he was in the throes of a borderline MVP caliber season, he had a great season. It got completely undone by the regular season finale loss to Detroit and then their playoff performance in L.A. I just never thought with McCarthy, like where their plan was McCarthy, rookie contract, okay. And that got put off a year. And I mean, they would know. I guess I would take it as a sign that they're worried about McCarthy's recovery if they were to keep Darnold, because it just would not make any sense to me that you would commit big years and dollars, assuming that that's what it would take to keep him there. I mean, I guess there's some scenario where that's not out there for him, and he loves it there enough that they could get him for less than the going rate or something. I don't know, but I thought he'd played himself out of there by being as good as he was, considering, again, they drafted the kid to, fill the team out, spend their money elsewhere, rookie contract, and now they've burned a year of that by the kid getting hurt. I think they get another veteran to be insurance and keep going with that plan. I'm surprised to see an insider the level of Schefter saying that's still what he thinks is most likely to happen, because it never seemed like a good idea to me. Those are two different things. I don't have any information at all, any intel. I just from out here go, why do I want to spend $40 to $50 million on you? I drafted this kid to do this, and that's what I'm going to do. And to heck with how great a year you had. I'm not buying you at top of the market here, and that would be that for me with Minnesota.
I talked to Matt Collar on his Purple Insider podcast every Wednesday through the season, and toward the end of the season into the playoffs, this is the conversation we had. Is like, I would always say something like, he hosts the show. It's a Vikings show. He starts by asking me a question about what's going to happen to Darnold, and I'm like, I should be asking you that question. I defer to you on this. It's like, well, I don't know anything. I don't know either. But he did make the point multiple times that they might not know what they've got in terms of the injury recovery. They know more than we do.
Right.
But that could be an indication of that. I don't know. If I were a Vikings fan, thank you for your service, Sam Darnold. I'm wheels up here.
Yeah.
Like, I've got a coach. Like, what was Darnold a year ago at this time? Okay.
A reclamation project.
It makes sense as a backup. I've got a coach who has shown, like, he can make an offense sing with different guys. What was Cousins, even really? O'Connell looks like maybe, I know in terms of fantasy, he's the dream because they're going to throw the ball a lot. They're going to throw it to the concentrated, excellent skill position guys they have, and I'm going to get numbers. And that happened even with if I can say it this way, even with Darnold. So I'm ready to go on the new kid, and if Darnold ends up leaving and I don't really do anything like in terms of compensation as the Vikings, okay, I guess that's how it was.
I would even go so far as to suggest that it would not surprise me if ownership, general manager, even coach, at some point Not you want to win, and they had a shot at the 1 seed. They looked like a team that could win the Super Bowl. I guess as the year was unfolding, so that would have been your focus, of course. But at some point, after the sting of the game against the Lions, the regular season finale, and then the playoff loss, you sit back, light a cigar, and go, I think that worked out better because you would have been you win one playoff game. You didn't beat the Lions, but you beat the Rams, lose a close game to, would they have gone to Philly if they'd won that game? I don't know how that would have worked. Lose there, Darnold, we should probably just keep going. And I would have thought that would be a horrible bet myself. That's just me. I wonder if, internally there was some relief, okay, all right, we can keep going. The plan was this. Darnold almost completely upended it, but he lost the plot at the very end here, and now we have an out. So let's not do that. That's why they have that, and the only reason to me you would revisit Darnold from their perspective, if I had anything to say about it, is that I don't know, is this kid's knee messed up, really messed up, infection or something? There's something wrong. If not,
I haven't heard anything about it.
Right, I'm full speed ahead with J.J. McCarthy, and I'll go sign. Who do you want? I'll sign whoever fits the bill as insurance there that it could turn into this year's Darnold.
I'll keep the streak going and mention the name Daniel Jones on the show today. He was there.
Yep.
And so you've got familiarity and experience. I think he's just right unless he can start somewhere else. And I do think that might be possible this year. Was it at this time yesterday where we ran through a list
right.
Who was going to start? BetOnline sent out an email today with odds on 3 guys. Darnold is one of them. The Raiders are the betting favorite, and the team that he's coming from in these cases are not included, so you can't bet the Vikings. But the Raiders are plus 125 for Darnold's next team. Aaron Rodgers is minus 300 to be on the Giants. And Jameis Winston made the cut today on this list, and the Jets at plus 250 for Jameis Winston. Okay.
Couple of other nuggets you referenced earlier brought up, and I'm glad you did because there was some Bills info in there. This Matthew Berry column, rumors from the Combine. It's a long piece. I read every word of it. Tyrod Taylor is what he said he's hearing the Jets right now. That's their idea.
With
oh, yeah, no, is it Sanders?
Milrow.
I don't want that.
You don't want that because it wouldn't be in the top 16.
Not only that, I don't want that because I think the kid's going to be good. So I don't want him in New York.
Okay, right. You always think of that. AFC East.
Yeah, but the other
there.
thing that we talked about, if it was indeed at this time yesterday, was Russell Wilson. You mentioned how there's a few of these guys, you got to rule out certain teams because they've already been there. And I said, well, maybe the Raiders with Pete Carroll, that works for Russell Wilson. That would be maybe weird. Barry said that they could rekindle that.
He did.
So I wanted to mention that because, my opinion yesterday was that might qualify as a non-starter. They're not going to get that band back together, but he said he was hearing that is a credible idea.
Sad to see the Bills not on the Jameis Winston odds list.
Why?
He's fun. He seems like a great teammate. I'd like to have him around. I'd like to have him on.
Interceptions are fun.
He is funny.
He is funny. I'm kidding.
The speeches and he couldn't be good for the Bills vibes. Jameis Winston. He has a past where maybe I should think more carefully before throwing that out there. It's obviously a good idea. We will take a break, and then it's pregame time, Sabres and Sharks. We've got the first chunk of it to ourselves here as Paul is unavailable. So if you did want to get something off your chest about them, we can accommodate you. 803-0550. This is WGR.
Never miss a second of Jeremy and Joe. WGR550.com. This is a Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update.
Sabres pregame coming up next, as it is Bills night down at the arena. The Sabres will host the San Jose Sharks. Puck drop at 7. Some roster updates, though not for the Sabres. For the Sharks, Vitek Vanacek not going to start tonight in net. He's being held up for what is reportedly trade purposes, and in his place it'll be Alexander Georgiev, who will get the start instead. Over to the NFL, the Eagles did give running back Saquon Barkley a 2-year, $41.2 million extension. That makes him now the highest paid running back in NFL history. Also included in the deal is $36 million guaranteed. The Cowboys began some internal moves. Defensive tackle Osa Odighizola signs a 4-year, $80 million deal. $58 million of that is guaranteed, while wide receiver CeeDee Lamb gets a restructured deal to create $20 million in cap space. The franchise tag deadline also passed today. Just 2 teams ultimately used the tag. The Bengals with wide receiver T. Higgins and the Chiefs with guard Trey Smith. And that does mean that Vikings quarterback Sam Darnold is set to hit free agency when the legal tampering period opens up on Monday, if, of course, he does not sign a deal with the Vikings. And then in college hoops, UB men will host Miami of Ohio at 7. It's going to be the final home game of the year for the men. That game will be on our sister station, The Bet 1520. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet celebrating 90 years of business. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
Welcome, Mike Schopp and the Bulldog here. The Sabres and Sharks in just over an hour downtown. The Sabres will be playing their 3rd game in 4 nights. The previous 2 didn't end well. Montreal pulled out the win here on Saturday with an empty net goal to make it 4-2, and then after Buffalo rallying from 3 goals down to tie it and send the game to overtime, Montreal wins again there. So your standings is not pretty. And you're not surprised. Buffalo, through 59 games, 54 points, fewest in the East, 4th fewest in the league. We are 12 back of a playoff spot with 23 games, and literally every other team in the conference is not in a playoff spot to pass. 24-35, 24, 29, and 6 is how that breaks down. San Jose has the fewest points in the NHL, 16-46. Or 16-37-9 for 41. It was reported would not be using goalie Vitek Vanacek tonight because of his being likely to be traded, which means Georgiev, not Georgiev, Georgiev,
okay,
former Ranger and Avalanche goalie. He led the league in wins twice. He played last night in Toronto for the Sharks, and they won that game. And it's being reported that he will play back-to-back, which is, that's very hard.
Mm-hmm. At least the travel might not have been too arduous, although that game...
Ask Paul.
That was, right, arduous for him. He was coming from Montreal, though, on the train and then driving back from Toronto. And I think it's probably still in the process of doing that. So at least they just had to take a bus ride down the QEW here. But, Georgiev, I think Colorado for a while there thought he's going to be our guy. That's why they got him, and it just didn't work out. And they've pivoted to Blackwood. That was a trade during this season. Mackenzie Blackwood went from San Jose to Colorado. Georgiev was a part of that return, and looks like he'll have the net tonight. They do have a young guy, Askarov, who's very promising. It was like the best goalie in the AHL maybe last year and maybe even 2 years running. Like very highly drafted Russian goalie that was just log jammed in Nashville behind Saros, thank you. I've always had.
Look at me with the Nashville.
No,
goalie.
I always have a Saros Yossi problem. Like I don't know why the names aren't similar.
You know what?
But I want to call one the other kind of all the time.
I have a Saros Rene problem.
Okay.
5 letters, both goalies for Nashville.
Right.
As you were saying.
Anyway, Askarov was buried there. Like, they're committed to Saros. He's their guy. So they spun Askarov off to San Jose. And I don't know, like, why he's not playing more. But anyway, he's a promising young goalie.
Give me a take on the hotshot rookie, Macklin Celebrini, and we will then be able to qualify this as a look at the other team. The spotlight on the Sharks, brought to you by Tullamore Dew Irish Whiskey. When it's game time, it's Tully time.
I think it would be hard to ask for it to be going any better for him. As a rookie, highly drafted, top pick, rolling in there. He's got 18 goals and 26 assists for 44 points in 50 games played. I think it's going very well. I think he's delivering on the promise. I mean, he's not, he wasn't as highly touted as, a generational guy like Bedard or obviously McDavid, but was a no-brainer top pick last year, and I think this first year is delivering. I think you should be happy with that year if you're a San Jose fan. He's a part of a young core there that they're putting together. Will Smith is another young player who came out of college this year to play with Celebrini there. They drafted him highly, I think, the year before, and so they've got some nice young pieces there. At least those forwards and the goalie, as I mentioned, I don't know where they're really at on the blue line. I don't know a lot about any of the guys. Younger guys. Vlasic's a veteran. Liljegren's a former Leaf. The other guys I'm not super familiar with. I don't know if any of them project as like a cornerstone guy for them. But I'd say their build is off to a decent start with Celebrini and Smith and the goalie, like I already said.
Also, a former first-round pick like Celebrini, Logan Couture, the captain of the Sharks, quietly 933 games played in 15 years, all with San Jose. Bills fan. He's going to love Bills night. Did they line this up? No, they wanted a squish the fish thing to line this up. Bills night, Sharks and Dolphins. Neither of which is a fish.
No, sharks are fish.
Sharks are fish.
Sharks are fish.
But, you don't call a shark a fish.
No.
Not to its face.
You would feel more like a dolphin is more like a fish than a shark because sharks are scary and dolphins are, you get to pet dolphins when you go to,
I've done it.
The Caribbean, whatever. You don't really get to pet sharks. So you would think the dolphin would be a fish and the shark would be a mammal, but it's the other way around.
When I went to Sharkland the last time, you were not allowed to pet the sharks.
No, that's usually frowned upon. I am unable to Google things, but I don't see Couture anywhere. I think he's done.
He's not playing this year?
I don't think he's there. Yeah. So sorry. Oh wow. My keyboard stopped working, so I can't specifically find out if he did. But I don't see his name anywhere on their stat sheet. Nor in their lineup.
What I do. I'm sorry if that's wrong. If I was wrong, it looks like I was. What I do see is on the Sharks this season's hockey reference page, he is listed as the captain.
Really?
Yeah. But you're right. I don't see any stats.
Yeah.
Well, never mind about the Bills night and the whole thing. I mean, he's going to miss it.
That was a good pull, though. I mean, well.
Yeah, I thought it was. It turned out being terrible.
Back off on how good it was.
You should. I already have. I didn't even say it, actually. If you're driving to the game tonight, cool. Your drive to the game is brought to you by Paddock Chevrolet, celebrating 90 years of business. He couldn't possibly be the captain of the team, but not on the team, right?
That would be weird. Yeah. I'm looking to see if he. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know what's going on there.
So last night, part of the problem, as you laid it out earlier, was another example of an apparent disconnect between like the message and the style of performance early in the game last night. I mean, you like the fire, and they had just played Montreal, and it was scrappy then. And so maybe not that surprising the way last night's game started, as physical as it was. But the lack of discipline when you're hearing about, what Lindy Ruff wanted and expected from his team last night just makes you wonder if anybody's listening.
Talked about it being a game, like we got to win this game, I think was the exact wording he used. We got to win this game because they already were behind on their 3-1-1 every 5 game thing with the back-to-back losses to Carolina and this first Montreal game. So we got to win this game. And then I don't know how extensively Ruff talked about staying out of the penalty box. I know Paul wrote about Montreal's power play killing the Sabres so far this year, and it did again last night. But I know Tage Thompson after the game said, before the game, we talked about being disciplined and, avoiding having to deal with their power play because they've had a tough time with it this year. And yeah, they went out and took 5 minor penalties in the first period. One of those was a saw-off at least, but 4 others, and to make matters even worse, they got scored on their own power play, so gave up. Montreal got a shorthanded goal on them too, so special teams doomed them, and goaltending doomed them. I mean, Montreal did not have a ton of chances in this game, and credit to them, they got it. They battled back and got the game to overtime, but boy, the overtime winner was a brutal goal for Reimer to give up. Sure, 3-on-3, but still, where it snuck in, the player that shot it, it was just a bad goal. But special teams has been a problem all year, and to have specifically highlighted discipline going into this game and have them take 4 minor penalties that resulted in Montreal power plays in the first period was tough. I mean, I want to give Dahlin some benefit of the doubt here for, wanting to defend the crest and show the fire like it's a fine line. But, man, the penalties he took himself, he took 2 of those minors in the first period. They were both egregious. I mean, there was they were both not needed, like sure. Gallagher is he's a notorious rat. You get a chance to give him a shot. Everyone would like to give him a shot, but the whistle's blown and you're pushing him, blasting him into his own goalie and the goalpost and everything. I don't need that. And the other one was just a blatant interference call. Again, same thing. Like, I got a shot. I'm going to take it.
At the risk of trying too hard to get in his head, I thought maybe the interference penalty was, they're not going to get me again.
Yeah,
I mean, it was down in the corner.
Yeah,
and
maybe
it was interference. He took him out.
Yes,
so
yes, he did.
Maybe a little bit more nuance was called for.
The reason I want to give him some benefit of the doubt is I don't know what's going on the ice in these 2 games and what these players on Montreal or any team in the league. I mean, the Sabres' reputation right now is, they're in very tough, not just in the standings, right? The emotion of the New Jersey thing from a month ago is still there. And, if I know anything about hockey players through the years, that kind of stuff does not escape their attention. So the Sabres might be getting a pretty hard time, maybe specifically from this team. And so Dahlin wants to defend them and show some grit and toughness and take some cheap shots and try to level the playing field a little bit. He chose to do it in a game where his coach said, stay out of the box, and we have to win this game. That I'm having trouble, I'm doing the best I can because Dahlin is excellent, and I love the fire and the edge that he often plays with. I think it can be valuable. It's very valuable in the sport to have guys on your team that are willing to, stick you. But just time and place was tough. It looked like he deliberately ignored what the plan was going into the game. And as the captain, that's not a great look.
Well, one thing that Paul Hamilton has pointed to many times over the years, and might want to tell us if he were with us today, he'll be on over the course of the night, but not yet, is that the Sabres are easily rattled and get flustered. And okay, well, maybe Montreal is mouthy, but this is how it goes with them. They had just won 6 out of 7 and made it at least a little bit interesting. They have plans for how many games in a row to win and how to get there to make it maybe seem to the players not as hard as it looks. And then Carolina/Hartford, just like not ready to go. The GM said exactly that to us on Friday on that game. I mean, you're not always going to have your best, your A game, right? But just sort of the attention to detail and the focus. And that's what last night was in this way, too. Like, did they learn anything? And when you're winning, that's when it can sort of sink in. Like, this is what we need to do and what we need to ignore. that just seems like kind of entry-level stuff.
Yeah.
And last night was disappointing in that way. If they got thrown off, I don't know, is there any excuse for that? These games are all super important.
No, there definitely isn't. And I'm just speculating on that. I don't know what caused it. But I would like there to be at least something that set him off specifically, if not them as a team. Because, these are two games. Like Carolina, they're a cut above you. Like they're a team that's going to the playoffs. Montreal's in this mix of teams that you got to pass. And they're not better than you. They're having a slightly better year than you in the standings, and that's it. And so, you got them in your place. You actually have a lead. Okay, got away from you. You got them again. Okay, let's go. And that's how the game starts.
Yeah.
I mean, that's tough, man. This is not a very good look. And I mean, need I say, if they had found a way, sure, the Carolina game happened and it was demoralizing and all that. But you get these two against Montreal, which is extremely doable, and you got San Jose here. Like you're ahead of your 3-1-1 thing, and we're probably feeling like okay, let's keep going. But now it just feels, forget it. You're done. It's over.
It does go back and forth, and maybe the right lane to be in is like, let me just see it get close first before doing my deal last week before the Carolina game. Like, no. This can happen. So maybe the best way to negotiate all this was to just take it a little slower. Darlene, of course, Eye on the Blue and Gold, who to watch for tonight, brought to you by Great Lakes Building Systems. We keep an eye on your business so you don't have to. Great Lakes Building Systems, our business is protecting your business. We do not have player interviews tonight. The back-to-back games and Paul having some travel stuff. So sorry about that. Over the course of the night, of course, we will get connected with the players. Powered by Verizon. Get to your local Verizon store today. Are we breaking here? And then it's Lindy?
We're breaking, yeah. That's exactly what we're doing. We're going to get you, Lindy Ruff does a weekly, it's him most weeks. It's been Seth Appert and the odd player or two, but mostly it's Lindy on Tuesdays at 8 a.m. with Jeremy and Joe on our morning show. So yeah, in lieu of Paul not being able to get down there to talk to Lindy before this game, we're going to bring you Lindy talking with Jeremy and Joe from our morning show to preview this game. So that's what we'll do after we take a break here.
All right, that's ahead. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog here, WGR.